My name is Cassandra Monroe, and I used to believe that love meant trust, until the morning I woke up to find every penny in our joint account gone. I was standing barefoot in our kitchen in Charleston, coffee in hand, trying to check our balance, before paying the contractor for some long overdue roof repairs. The app wouldn't load at first. When it finally did, my heart dropped. Zero Wajo. My first thought wasn't panic, it was confusion. Then, anger began to flicker underneath my skin, like a lit match waiting to ignite. I refreshed the page, again and again. Nothing. No pending transactions. No recent activity on my card, just gone. I walked upstairs and peeked into our bedroom. Matt, my husband of 4 years, was already gone. Not unusual. He was always out early for meetings. He worked in finance, or so he claimed. But lately, those meetings were starting earlier, lasting longer, and never seemed to amount to anything tangible. A gnawing chill crept into my chest. I dialed him, straight to voicemail. Hey, it's Cass. I need to talk to you ASAP. Call me back. I paced the living room in silence for 10 minutes before calling the bank. After being transferred 3 times, a woman with a gentle southern accent gave me the answer that would shatter my entire life in a single sentence. Ma'am, the balance was transferred in full at 3:12 a.m. this morning by someone with full account access. Full access, my husband, Matt. I sat down slowly on the edge of the couch, like my legs forgot how to hold me up. My brain scrambled for explanations, for loopholes, for some sort of mistake. But deep down, I already knew. Matt took everything, and he didn't just steal my money. He stole my trust, my safety, my entire sense of reality. What he didn't know, though, was that I don't just break when betrayed. I rebuild. Smarter. Stronger. And I was going to make sure that when I returned the favor, it would be public, permanent, and devastating. Because no one empties Cassandra Monroe's account and walks. Away clean, by the time Matt finally returned my call, it was nearly 5 p.m. I'd spent the entire day with a pit in my stomach, replaying every conversation we'd had in the last 2 weeks, every excuse, every vague explanation, every moment. That didn't quite add up, he answered casually. Hey babe, what's up? I didn't even say hello. Where's the money, Matt? A pause. Then, a low chuckle. Wow. No. Hi. No. How was your day? Just straight to accusations? Cut the crap. The account's empty. I checked. The bank confirmed it was. You. Where is the money? He didn't answer right away. And when he did, his voice was calm. Too calm. It's being handled. You'll have it back soon. Handled? What the hell does that mean? Cass, it's complicated. I needed to move some things around, do a little financial restructuring. You stole it, Matt. I shouted. You didn't ask. You didn't tell me. You took everything while I was sleeping. That's not restructuring, that's betrayal. Another pause. Then, his voice turned cold. You're overreacting. It's my money, too. I moved. It to protect us both. You wouldn't understand the details. I sat in stunned silence. That was the moment I realized something terrifying. He didn't see it as wrong. He didn't feel guilty. And worse, he was gaslighting me. I'm coming home in an hour, he added before hanging up. But when he did, he brought dinner and acted like nothing had happened, as if this was all just a silly misunderstanding. He placed the food on the table and kissed me on the cheek, like we weren't standing in the middle of a 5-alarm fire. I didn't eat. I watched. He didn't flinch. Didn't apologize. Instead, he told me he was working on an opportunity. That the money would double soon. That I should be patient. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to demand every cent back right then and there. But I didn't, because in that moment, I saw through him completely. Matt didn't think I was a threat. He thought I was too soft, too loyal, too dependent to do anything about it. He thought I'd let this slide. So I smiled. I nodded, and I began planning. He had no idea who he just picked a fight with. While Matt slept beside me that night, snoring softly like nothing in the world could touch him, I stared at the ceiling in the dark, my heart pounding like a war drum. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was focused, sharp, calculating. If he wanted to play games with my future, I'd learn the rules and beat him at it. First thing the next morning, I took the day off from work, told my boss I was dealing with a family emergency. That wasn't a lie. I started by printing every single bank statement from the last 3 months. Not just from our joint account, but from my own credit cards, our investment accounts, and the lines of credit tied to our mortgage. It was all worse than I imagined. Matt hadn't just drained our savings. He'd opened 2 new credit cards, in my name. He'd taken out a personal loan, again, in my name, for $15,000. The only reason I hadn't seen it sooner was because he used a different mailing address. A P.O. box I didn't even know he had. This wasn't a financial slip-up, it was identity theft. I gathered every shred of evidence, sorted them in a binder with color-coded tabs. Every transaction, every login, every unauthorized withdrawal. I even pulled security camera screenshots from our Nest app to show when he'd taken the documents from my office drawer. Then came the digital side. Matt always thought I was the non-techie one, that I didn't understand the apps or the accounts. But he'd forgotten one key thing. I was the one who set up our Wi-Fi. I had the master passwords, so while he was at work, I logged into his cloud backups, his iCloud, Google Drive, email, even the secret email account I'd suspected he had, the one he used when job hunting. What I found there made my blood run cold. Emails between him and a woman named Vanessa Lang. Not just flirty messages, but detailed discussions about moving in together, about my money, about how she couldn't wait for me to be out of the picture. There were screenshots of my social media posts, notes on my daily habits, even a budget spreadsheet titled New Life, Vanessa and M. I nearly vomited. Not only had he stolen from me, he'd been planning to replace me, but I didn't cry. I didn't call him. I didn't confront him. Instead, I made 3 copies of everything, one for my lawyer, one for the authorities, and one just in case I decided to burn it all down myself, because now I had the power, and Matt, he still thought I was clueless. He had no idea his downfall had already begun. I invited Matt out to dinner that Friday. His favorite place, a trendy little steakhouse downtown with overpriced cocktails and exposed brick walls. The kind of place he always insisted we couldn't afford. Unless, of course, he was trying to impress someone. He didn't suspect a thing. He even shaved. Wore the leather watch I'd bought him for our 3rd anniversary. Told me I looked incredible in my dress. The same dress he once told me was a little much for someone in finance. I smiled, thanked him, and ordered the most expensive bottle of wine on the menu. He blinked, surprised, but didn't protest. Why would he? He thought he'd already won. Over appetizers, I asked about his job search. Still working on it. Still, a few things in the pipeline. Still, waiting to hear back. Lies, polished smooth from repetition. I nodded along like I believed him. I even touched his hand across the table, like the supportive wife he pretended I was. Then, I pulled out the manila envelope. His face changed the second I set it down between us. "What's this?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Open it." He did. Slowly, like a man defusing a bomb. Inside, printouts of the emails between him and Vanessa, copies of the fraudulent credit applications, the spreadsheet, the camera stills, a photo of him picking the lock on my home office. He didn't speak. Just stared, eyes wide, mouth slightly open. "You used me," I said, voice low. "You lied, you stole, and you planned to leave me with the wreckage." "Simone, I can explain." "No, you can listen." I leaned in close, just enough for him to hear the calm fury in my voice. "You committed federal crimes. Identity theft, fraud, financial abuse. And you left a digital trail so wide a blind man could follow it. So here's what's going to happen." I slid another sheet across the table. An agreement. It was notarized. Drafted by my lawyer. A full confession and financial transfer. He would return the funds, surrender his claim to the house, and walk away with nothing. No contest, no alimony, no fight. If he signed it, I'd stay quiet. No police, no media, no destruction. If he refused, I already had an appointment with the district attorney. He looked at the paper, then at me. "You're bluffing," he said weakly. I pulled out my phone and pressed play. The voice memo app lit up with a recording. "Can't wait to move in with you. She'll never see it coming. Once the money clears, I'm out." His voice, clear as day. Talking to Vanessa, I watched the color drain from his face. "You recorded me?" I tilted my head. "You betrayed me." He signed, and when he left the restaurant, pale, shaking, silent, I finished the wine, took a long, slow sip, and smiled, because now I was just getting started. The next morning, I was at the courthouse the moment it opened. I filed the signed agreement. I filed for divorce. I froze every account we had jointly accessed and reopened new ones in my name only. The house deed was already transferred. My lawyer made sure of that. By noon, I was no longer Simone Briggs, the supportive, soft-spoken wife behind the scenes. I was the woman Matt would regret underestimating for the rest of his life. What Matt didn't know was that I had already reached out to his employers. The ones he swore he was still in talks with. Turns out, they didn't know who he was. Not anymore. I also called the landlord of the condo he leased behind my back with my money. I told him the truth. Matt had obtained it through fraud. The landlord was less than pleased. Within 48 hours, eviction proceedings had started. He tried to call me 17 times. He texted things like, "Can we talk? This isn't you. You don't have to do this. You're ruining everything." But I didn't reply. I wasn't the naive woman who used to cry over his empty promises. Instead, I sent one final message. "Don't worry. I'm not ruining anything. I'm simply cleaning up the mess you made, starting with your reputation." And that's when the next phase began. I had scheduled a meeting with a reporter from a popular business and lifestyle blog, the kind of outlet that ate stories like ours for breakfast. I shared my receipts, not the petty kind, the legal kind, screenshots, contracts, voice memos, fraudulent activity. I didn't name him. I didn't have to. The story went viral anyway. Wife outsmarts husband in elaborate financial betrayal. Then outsmarts him again. The headline said it all. Within 2 days, his social circle collapsed. His former mentors ghosted him. His online startup buddies unfollowed him. He went from promising entrepreneur to cautionary tale in a matter of hours. And me? I was just getting started on my real revenge, because exposing the man was only step one. Thriving without him? That was the part he'd never recover from. 3 months later, I stood on the stage of a female founders conference in downtown Chicago, the same event I used to attend as a quiet listener in the back row. Only this time, I wasn't taking notes. I was the keynote speaker. I talked about resilience, about betrayal, about rebuilding from rock bottom with nothing but grit and a folder full of painful lessons. I didn't name names. I didn't have to. Everyone in that room could feel it. I wasn't a victim. I was living proof that sometimes the greatest revenge isn't payback. It's reinvention. And God, had I reinvented myself. With the help of a quiet investor I met during my earlier pitch days, someone who believed in me, not just the product, I had launched Solvents, a boutique strategy firm that specialized in saving tech startups from self-sabotage. Irony? Delicious. My first 3 clients had been burned by arrogant co-founders who thought they could run solo. They couldn't. They needed a fixer. They needed someone with backbone. They needed me. The financial side of things? Better than ever. The consulting. Packages I offered started at 5 figures. And unlike before, my name was on every contract. Bold, black, undeniable. Simone Briggs, founder and lead strategist. I even rehired 2 of the junior analysts Matt had laid off when he cut me out. Turns out, they were more loyal to me than he ever realized. They'd heard what happened, and they chose to follow me. That was the moment I realized I hadn't just lost a marriage. I had gained an army. Back in my apartment, a sleek, modern loft I chose because I wanted to. I kept a framed photo of my old whiteboard, the one from our living room, the one Matt said looked messy and desperate. It wasn't messy, it was a blueprint. The blueprint of how I burned the whole system down and built something better from the ashes. It happened on a Tuesday, the kind of Tuesday where everything felt aligned. My calendar was booked solid, with high-profile strategy calls, a PR interview about women in tech leadership, and a celebratory dinner with my team to mark our biggest quarter yet. And then a name popped up on my phone. Matthew Delaney. My breath caught. I hadn't heard from him in over a year. No texts, no how have you been, no apologies. Just silence. I let the call go to voicemail. A minute later, a message arrived. Short, clipped, and somehow still arrogant. Hey, Simone. I think we should talk. It's important. Please call me. I didn't. The next day, I received an email. This time, it wasn't just from Matt. It was also from Greg Stanford, the new interim CEO of Helix Data Systems. I recognized his name immediately. He'd once tried to poach me back when I was still with Matt, but Matt had blocked the offer without even telling me. Funny how things circle back. Subject: Strategic Collaboration Proposal. Simone. I've recently taken over leadership at Helix. I've been reviewing your past contributions and your current success with Solvance. I'd like to discuss a potential consulting partnership. We're in need of a turnaround. Fast. Best, Greg A. Turnaround. Of course they were. Helix had burned through their Series C funding. Rumors of internal dysfunction were making the rounds on Twitter and LinkedIn. Product development stalled, clients fleeing, investors panicking. And now they were reaching out to the woman they once discarded like a bad hire. The same woman whose strategies once generated over 60% of their revenue. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I went to my private rooftop, poured myself a glass of Syrah, and looked out at the skyline. This right here, was the part no one talked about when it came to revenge. It wasn't always dramatic. It wasn't always explosive. Sometimes, revenge was quiet. It was getting an email that proved they finally realized who you were and who they lost. The meeting was set for Friday, a neutral venue, a private boardroom at the Waldorf Astoria. Greg had insisted. Professional setting, no pressure, he said. But I knew the game. Pressure was exactly the point. I arrived early, not out of nervousness, but control. I wanted to set the tone. My team had prepped a case study presentation showing how Solvance helped 3 other startups rebound from the brink. I'd brought printed reports, real data, and a projection model that outlined a path for Helix's recovery. Greg entered with a smile. Matthew walked in 2 minutes later. He looked older, not aged exactly, but worn. His confidence had cracks now. His voice trembled just slightly when he said, "Hi, Simone." I didn't answer. Greg launched into the meeting with practiced charm, but eventually turned to me. You know the core issue, Simone. Helix has the tech, but not the leadership. The board is nervous. We need help building trust again, inside and out. He slid a folder across the table. Inside, a formal consulting offer. High 6 figures, full strategic authority, public credit. For the turnaround, and a clause stating I'd report directly to Matthew. I closed the folder and smiled. Greg, I said, thank you for the offer, but I'm not here to be anyone's band-aid. Excuse me? Matt asked, voice brittle. You don't need a consultant, I continued. You need a reckoning. Your leadership failed, your culture failed, your ego failed. I turned to Greg. If you want Solvance, you get me, but not under him. I'll bring my systems, my team, and my roadmap. I'll do it fast, and I'll do it clean. But I answer to the board, not to Matt. Greg looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. That night, I received the revised contract. Matt was being transitioned to an advisory role. Greg copied the board. I signed it before midnight. 6 months later, Helix was back in the black. Our strategies worked. Clients returned. Investors reinvested. The media called it one of the fastest corporate comebacks in recent history. I got the cover story in Fast Company. Matt, he quietly resigned. No farewell post, no applause, just gone. Sometimes justice doesn't roar. Sometimes it signs its name at the bottom of a contract and smiles while the room watches. My name is Simone Briggs, and this time, they knew exactly who I was.